Hello, this is Dear Damson, and today we are going to have a fun video and fun painting time with a bottle of champagne, and I will make this one a birthday gift. And the first thing I need to do is clean the bottle really well with alcohol, with rubbing alcohol, and pretty much make sure that my hands also are perfect and clean. I'm using the top of the bottle as my handle, so I'll be kind of painting almost like upside down because I don't want to touch any part that the paint will be going on, because oil from your hands will transfer to the bottle. This time what I did is I put masking tape on the label because the label was shiny, so I wasn't afraid that the label was going to rip if I put the masking tape on. But even though the label was shiny, what I did is I stick the tape to my pans before I put it on the bottle, so it's not like 100% sticky. So I took some of the stickiness away and then I put it on to the bottle. And after you're done with that, you want to practice a little bit of what you are going to paint on a separate piece of paper before you start playing with your bottle. And I will have the initials of the person I'm making this bottle for, and the initials are JM. And I pretty much looked different fonts and decided what I am going to do. So I'm going to use a cookie sheets, and I am going to put the letters together and figure out first if the size is big enough, and if it's not big enough, I'm gonna change it. And also when I am transferring, I'm using a softer pencil, but even HB will be okay. And then I'll apply it on the bottle and see how big that is, and if it's going to take a really nice area from the bottle, because we want that to stand out. We want to have a good size. I also traced it on the opposite side, so when I am tracing on the original side, the back side will transfer onto my bottle. So that is really good way to transfer things around. And there it is. So we are pretty much ready to play around with that. I am going to use a brush number 4, and I am trying to have a really nice tip to my brush. And actually I think I got even a smaller brush. I am going to check and see. It's a very long brush, and it's for line work, so it gives me really beautiful lines. So it is worth investing in one of those. And I believe the size of this brush is 3 zeros, so I will slightly start with the tip of the brush and then push gently down and then pull away, so it gives me these beautiful lines. Now, how can we make this easy and less stressful? You can use a paint marker, and that is going to give you more I guess straight lines without too much work, so it's going to be less stressful. So you can always do that. I was going to try with the brush, and if the brush was working, I was going to continue with that, and if not, I was going to use a wet napkin to take away this paint and continue with marker. But it did work because my brush was really good. And in this case, your tool doesn't matter because you need your tool to work properly. So if you don't have a really good brush, use a marker. You can also use a Sharpie. And the next part will be planting those flowers. I also did a very similar flower, if not the same, on my YouTube channel. with a watercolor flower, but pretty much it's absolutely the same looking flower, so it's the same idea. So you can always, if you have practice with watercolor or acrylics, you can always transfer the skill to a bottle and create something really cool. So super elementary flower. We started from a circular place with lines going around, almost like we're creating the sun. And after that, I separated 3 to 4 sections to give the petals. And pretty much that's my flower in the beginning. And after that, I added a few bulbs, just pointing to different directions. And pretty much that's created by just pushing that brush from the tip, that push down a little harder and then lift it away, and I created left side, right side, and that created a really nice bulb. Now if you see how the lines are working right here, you can leave your bottle pretty much right here, just adding of course a few more flowers, but you don't have to add more colors. Now I will add tons of more to this flower, so you can check and see. There's so many places that you can stop and say, okay, that looks great, I don't need to do the extra, but I'm going to continue all the way till the end. It's going to give you different variations of either the flower or the look of the design. So I'm gonna repeat this a few more times, but I practice, even though I have done this flower, I practice on the paper to see how it's going to look, and I wasn't sure if it's going to be a rose or more like this interesting looking flower, or all kinds of different things that I tried on the paper before I decided what I'm going to do. So I chose the easiest one, and it gives me a really nice clean look, and also it takes a really nice space on the bottle. So I'm filling in here with a few bulbs. Now I will be using acrylic paint, and also on the end I'm gonna cover this with Mod Podge to protect it. You can use glass paint, and then you're just gonna have to let it dry for a little bit longer, and it's going to cure over time, so it's going to become permanent. Sometimes I use the glass paint, and sometimes I just use acrylics. So my paints that I'm using, I have black, I have pink, magenta, I have red, I have white, I have bluish green, which will be my leaves and branches. The black will be, because I will be using gold, so I am placing my black on areas that I want the gold to be, because my gold is transparent, so I want this black background to make the gold kind of show more. So I will show you how that looks with paint, gold paint, and also I am going to continue with markers, because it is very different and so much easier to use the paint glass markers versus paint. So I'm kind of alternating between paint and markers. I do love the look of brush strokes, so that's why I will definitely use brush, not just the markers, but the markers will help our illustration and our art to look a little bit cleaner. So that's why I'm going to add both elements. So for branches, I'm pretty much using this swirl, but not overdoing the swirls at this point. So they're just taking space and filling in the empty spots. Now you can do your own variation of swirls. I know that everybody who has done swirlies, they're slightly different, so do what's comfortable for you, what you have done. also sometimes I connect things with dots. So I'm gonna use dots on some places just to either make an area a little bit thicker or just connect elements. And of course it fills in the space too. Now it's good to wait between layers for them to dry. And here I'm gonna go with the black. First is going to make my pink really bright looking, and then that black actually will be covered up with gold. So right now it looks really dark, but we are going to tone it down. And the reason why I'm using gold is because the neck of the bottle is gold, so the whole picture will be really connected with the bottle. And just adding a few swirls, a few lines here and there, so just play around. The beautiful thing about painting something like that is if you don't like it when it's wet, you can gently remove it with a slightly wet tissue. Now, when I was removing the tape from the labels, there's a couple of areas that lifted the paint, so I went and I fixed them, but the line between the white and the label is not 100% clean. So on the end I'll show you how we're gonna fake that line to be perfect. So these are those dark parts that I'm going to add gold. So that brush is really nice, and I'm just using the power of the brush, the shape of the brush to do the work for me. So the difference is how much pressure I'm putting on the brush for the brush to create these perfect lines. And every time when I'm painting a bottle, the edge on the bottom, because I'm twirling it around, gets a little bit lifted, scuffed. That on the end will be fixed also, so don't stress about it if your white is getting onto your whatever the surface is covered with. Just leave it alone until you're done painting, because that area will not be painted anyway with art, so you just easily can cover it up on the end. And even though it's dry, just because I'm running it and it's a heavy bottle, it's not empty, it kind of puts enough pressure for the paint to be removed on the ends, on the bottom of the bottle. But once we put the Mod Podge on top of our artwork, we're not going to have that problem. So I'm adding the gold, and the gold is very transparent. So if you only have paint as gold, you're gonna have to do a couple of layers maybe, but it looks really beautiful with the paint, because everywhere where there's no black, it just gives you a shimmer because it's transparent, where the black is blocking that transparency and it's creating it more of an iridescent color that it's showing a lot. But when you're doing the paint markers, which are oil-based markers, they have a lot more coverage, so you don't have to do few layers, but it doesn't give you that extra line around the artwork. So if I'm pushing a little bit harder and I'm getting out of the black area, my iridescent color is going to be transparent. It's going to give me shimmer, which is really cool. And it's really hard to see it on the camera, but it's really pretty. So this is why I'm using paint, and also I'll use markers because it's going to give me that heavy gold look. So if I look at the bottle, if I'm looking at this bottle right now, I can stop or I can continue. So this is the place where you as the artist gonna decide where do you want to go and how much do you want to add on, and what do you feel, how do you like it. I'm gonna continue painting because it's going to give you an idea of different areas where you can stop. So I'm gonna make the white flower, now it's gonna turn into a pink flower. And you can see them side by side, they can absolutely work either way. I'm using a very light pink, and my pink is made from magenta and white. Now I'm mixing magenta and red to create a little bit darker red, but to have that pinkish kind of a element in it. And I'm just giving slight lines here and there. So this is where I start playing around with my art. I'm adding layers and layers. Now, if you look at some of the tutorials on flowers or butterflies or whatever it is, shells, you can use all those elements into bottles and create beautiful art on your bottles for different occasions and different people. So my bulbs are getting a darker side and a lighter side on them. So I'm gonna go in with a second layer of gold on top of my black. And you can see how it's still very transparent, but it's going to, a few coats, it's going to look pretty gold. This is the beautiful part where I'm adding the iridescent color. You can add silver or gold or whatever else. If I'm coming outside the line of the black, it will not matter because the colors are so transparent. It's really hard to see the sparkly look on the bottle, but it's really neat. So I'm just adding more gold on top of the pink, and again it just makes it sparkly looking, goldish looking without really heavy gold look. It is very cool. So I'm gonna add a few more lines. On top of my greenish blue, just to fill in the space, because our main element is the letters on the front and the few flowers. The rest is filling. Now I'm gonna use this marker, which I got on Amazon. So it is a gloss marker, and this one is a iridescent green, so it does have a sparkle to it too. It's metallic green, and I am just adding another element and filling in the space. So I'm not doing my lines completely on top of the other lines. I'm trying to have my hand flow really fast on top of the art that I want to add to, so it ends up to be sometimes over, sometimes right next to it, but that's okay. So the metallic pink is actually really dark, so it almost looks like purple, so it's perfect for me to give a little outline, and also it just makes it a little sparkle too. So it's very girly, but it's definitely not bright pink. It's absolutely purplish pink. So I added a few lines next to the initials, and if there was any problems with my original black lines, that will be the time where I am going to absolutely fake straight lines, because I'm adding a few different lines that are definitely not straight. They're away from the black, and it's just taking away your attention from anything that is not perfect. So now I'm going to go with the metallic gold marker, and you can see how that covers completely. So my idea was that J and M to be completely covered by gold, and I put 2 layers of the gold paint, and I think I got tired of waiting for the coverage of the gold, so I decided to just go ahead and on the M and the J to go over and add this metallic marker. It's gonna cover this much faster. Now I could have started directly with that, which you can. So if you want to do it a little bit faster than the way I did it, this is the way to do it. So you don't have to do the black with the brush and struggle. Just go ahead with the marker, paint marker, and that is going to help you big time. So now I'm pretty much covering the black lines again with the marker, but because I went with the brush before that and I wasn't covering only the black, but I was slightly coming outside the black, it gave me that a little bit of almost like a shadow look that it's very hard to see on the camera, but it's really cool. So this is the time where you just play around, fill in, and touch up anything that bothers you or needs a little help. And these flowers are super easy, super elementary. There's nothing to it. They're not perfect at all. So we have a lot of pink, a lot of gold, a lot of sparkly things. You can always even add crystals. If the person who you're giving this loves crystals, you can add a few crystals here and there and glue them with either glue gun or just use any glue that's going to stick it to your bottle, because once you go with the Mod Podge over, it's going to enforce the connection between the elements. And this is how I'm going to fade these perfect lines around the bottle labels that are kind of lifted off and they're not perfect. The white is chipping a little bit in some places or just not covering enough. So I went with the gold marker and added a little line, zigzag, and created an additional element right there. But pretty much that's it. So this one will say happy birthday, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please don't forget to subscribe, give me thumbs up, and I will see you soon. Happy painting, and don't forget to Mod Podge.